I'm Ben Sawyer, and this is The Road to Now. Today on the show, we ask the question, what is Americana music? And we get the answer from some pretty amazing guests, Emmylou and Rodney Crowell. This conversation was recorded live back in September of 2023, right up the street from my house at Riverside Revival. It was such a great night, and the kind of thing that's fun to share again. Bob and I are busy lining up new episodes to record. We hope everybody caught the new American Revolution documentary by our friends Ken Burns, David Schmid, and Sarah Botstein. Bob and I will be back with new episodes coming up. Hope you guys are getting ready for the holidays. Thanks for listening. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Road to Now Live. Thank you so much for being here.
We're here to talk about Americana music tonight, and we're, again, really grateful that you all are here with us to talk about this subject, this genre, and that's the question, right? What we wonder this week as we start the Americana Music Fest week and all the big festivities going on in town, is Americana a genre? Is it a community of musicians? Or is it a refuge for artists that don't fit other places anymore?
Yeah, and this is the thing is like, I've heard several people say when I've asked them, I'm like, what is Americana? And they try to explain it and they go, well, you know it when you hear it, right? And that's just kind of an interesting definition. I mean, it's true though, right? When you hear Americana, you go, okay, I know what that is. But then when you try to explain it to somebody, it gets kind of confusing. So tonight, like we have, I mean, my co-host included some of the great figures in modern Americana music to help us sort this question out, and I'm excited about it. We're gonna start off, Bob. All right, so just a little backstory. Who am I? Probably you guys are wondering that. That's okay. I think
everybody knows Dr. Ben Sawyer. Come on.
Thank you guys. Shout out to the kind ones who were like, just act like we do. Just act like we do now. So the way I would describe myself in relationship to this genre, like I went to high school with Scott and Seth Avett, and then I do a podcast with Bob Crawford. I live in the same neighborhood as Langhorne Slim, and now I'm doing this show with Emmylou. I'm basically the Forrest Gump of Americana music. I just keep on being there when things are happening, but I'm not like, I'm just kind of adjacent. But having this opportunity to grow up with Bob, you know, in that generation of music, really with Seth, I got to watch as these guys developed when they met Bob and came about and created this style of music that is the Avett Brothers. It was a delight to see because it really was a type of music that was challenging to people. It brought in different people that, you know, they'll be in the same room for your shows. You'd be like, those guys are in the same room? And they'd be loving it. So I just thought, you know, since Bob and his band are part of what is modern Americana, kind of this resurgence that comes in the early 2000s, what does that look like to you, Bob? Because when you showed up, nobody was doing what you were doing, but what's going on?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. And when we talked about this earlier this week, Ben and I, you know, I thought about it first in terms of when I met Scott and Seth. And this is 2001, spring of 2001. And just prior to that, I started playing the upright bass, like 6 months before I met those guys. I was going back to school. I went back to school to Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina to study jazz guitar. And on a whim, I was with a friend. We were at a music store in Concord, North Carolina, which is where Scott and Seth are from. I didn't know the guys at the time, but I bought an upright bass. And
At Mullis Music?
Mullis Music, yeah.
Yes, I didn't even know that, okay.
And so I took the bass home, and this is the period of my life where I live in a house with 5 other guys. And everybody played in a band. And everybody we knew played in a band. And this is in Charlotte, up near the university area. And so I bring this bass home, and everybody wanted me all of a sudden to play in their band because I have this big upright bass, and no one else had one. And I didn't know how to play it, but it was just this anomaly, right? This thing that no one's ever seen in real life before. But it's not like that now. But take yourself back to 2000, 2001. If you didn't like bluegrass music, or jazz, how many upright basses did you see in pop or rock or whatever? And so I start playing with these guys, and the band. We had a couple names for the band, but eventually we're the Memphis Quick 50, right? And I just kind of jumped in with these guys. And the guitar player from the band, this guy Bobby Gillespie, he starts feeding me all these CDs. This is Townes Van Zandt. This is a Doug Somm, the Sir Douglas Quintet. Emmylou Harris. The Elite Hotel. You got to listen to this album. This is great. Rodney Crowell. Kelly Willis. I can just go on and on and on. And of course, Willie and Waylon are part of this, and Steve Earle and Guy Clark. And so it's this amalgamation of all this music in 2001 that just seemed so relevant at the time, like something was happening. So that's where I thought I would start this conversation with Ben. But then I was thinking about it. I moved from New Jersey in 1995. I packed up everything I owned, and I had this old station wagon, and I moved from southern New Jersey to Charlotte, North Carolina. And part of what inspired me was going to Merlefest. So here I am, this kid in Jersey. My neighbor said, hey, you want to go to this bluegrass festival in North Carolina? Merlefest. This, probably 93, 94, I start going down there. And so I graduated college the first time, and I was doing film and video production. And so this is 96. The Olympics are in Atlanta, and I interned for a Philadelphia news station, and the reporter said, drive south. He said, the South is the up-and-coming market. Drive south, knock on doors, hand out resumes.
This guy was either really inspiring or just didn't like Bob.
Yeah, one or the other.
Just keep driving.
So I pack up can you open that for me?
Yeah,
thanks. So I pack up my station wagon and I head south, and I have no destination. I'm just gonna, start in Charlotte, hand out a resume tape. I want to be a news photographer at the time. And then if that doesn't work, I'm gonna go to Raleigh, I'm gonna go to Winston-Salem, I'm gonna go to, and I had a map, remember maps where you would unfold, you would unfold it and then you couldn't fold it back? No matter how, who here could fold a map back?
Nobody could at that time, Bob.
People. Man, geez. I remember, anyway, I have maps. I could talk about maps all night. But so.
It's a map podcast now, guys. We're going to talk.
But here's the point. The point is this. Now, Merlefest is my big exposure, right? I brought 3 CDs on that journey down. 3 CDs. Robert O'Keefe, Gringo Honeymoon, Steve Earle, Train A-Comin', and Gillian Welch's first album, Orphan Girl, I think is what it might have been called. But that's Americana music, right? That's what we all think of today as being Americana music.
Yeah, and so this is what's fascinating to me is that Bob, we have this idea that Americana has had a modern resurgence, but it really never went away. And it was a part of people's playlists and people's imaginations when they were writing music, even if they weren't aspiring to be a part of that genre. Now, for you guys, here's what I remember. I remember distinctly, this was I said from the same town as Scott and Seth, stopping by this art museum that Scott had downtown.
That was the Southern Star?
Yeah, it was 2002 or something. And you guys, at this point, these guys would go on stage, and I would show up at places. Dane Honeycutt, their road manager, is one of my very best friends. So you'd see people be like, who's playing tonight? Sometimes I'd be like, I'm here to see this band. And they'd be like, who's that? And they were on an hour kind of stuff, right? And then after the show, everybody in there would be like, what just hit us? That was amazing. Because these guys would play bluegrass music and old style music like it was a punk show. So here's what's fascinating. I remember talking to Scott. I'd seen them play. Everyone was wild about them. And I was like, how's it going? And he said, great, but the problem is no one knows what to make of us. So we're not country, right? We're not rock because we've got a banjo. At that time, all these things were confused. And there wasn't a coherent Americana scene at that point. I think it was dispersed. But it comes in the wake of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
And this is very relevant. This is one of the research that I've done. And, Ben and I, we talk about historical events a lot. And usually it's pretty objective, right? There are these primary source documents. There are people write about the history and they focus on different things. But But when you talk about music, it's really subjective, okay? So I might say like, this is Americana or this isn't, but we all have different opinions about things. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like when you think about the history of Americana music, there are these two cultural moments, film moments. One is The Last Waltz in 1978.
Round of applause if you've seen that. Who here's seen The Last Waltz?
And then there's, in 2000, there's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Round of applause who's seen that film. It's not surprising to me.
And Ben, when Scott, Seth, and I would play those early shows, those raucous early shows at places like the Wine Vault in North Charlotte, people would ask us to play Man of Constant Sorrow. Every night, everywhere we played. Play Man of Constant Sorrow!
It was their free bird, that's why.
We never did. Scott, I think maybe we played it I don't know, but another song they would ask us to play was Rocky Top. And this is a little aside, but we played at this place I mentioned, the aforementioned Wine Vault, and a guy, we played for 4 hours, and people would come, and it's a wine vault, so they would get lit over the course of the night. And one night we had a guy, he said, we played Rocky Top. And he said, play Rocky Top again. We're like, well, we already played that one. He said, I'll give you $100 bill. Play Rocky Top again. Rocky Top it is. And then 20 minutes later, play Rocky Top again. Another $100. And we did it. And then play Rocky Top again. And then Scott was like, sir, we appreciate it, but we can't take any more of your money. Thank you so much. But
should have been like, sir, we appreciate it, but it's $200 now. So how bad do you want to hear it?
But so, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, right? Getting back from my rabbit hole, is this moment that people seem to be on a mass scale aware of this kind of music.
Yeah, and so before we get into the meat of the conversation and we introduce our guest for the night, we just want to lay out what, kind of in the bigger picture of the formation of this genre, some key moments so that we can refer to them as we go through this so you guys will know. And we spent so much time working on this, so many hours digging through because there are disagreements. But what we're going to share right now are commonly agreed upon moments in the formation of Americana music. And some of these kind of surprised me.
But remember, this is subjective, okay? So you may have better ones, and please let us know if you do. 1965, Dylan Goes Electric. Okay, so maybe that's the moment, right? Yes, we can cheer. Hey, might as well cheer Dylan Going Electric.
He's not here, but he probably listens to the podcast. You don't want to hurt his feelings, okay?
1990, Uncle Tupelo's No Depression album. Now, this next one, I had the privilege of speaking by phone last week with Jed Hilly, and he is the executive director of the Americana Music Association. And he's an amazing guy, and we spoke for an hour and a half, and it was one of these conversations, Ben, where I was like, why didn't I record that?
Yeah, there were a lot of those conversations.
And of course I was like, what are you doing Monday night? And he of course, this is a big week for him, so he couldn't make it, but he said a big moment for Americana, and this is what we love, where the political and the forces of the economy shape the culture, was SoundScan. 1991 was the creation or the technological revolution of SoundScan. Does anybody know what SoundScan is?
You guys know what this is? Some people do. This blew my mind.
So Billboard, we got the Billboard charts, right? The Hot 100, Hot 200, and this is all why they call it that. It used to be called the pop charts, whatever, Billboard pop charts. But so what would happen before 1991 is Billboard would call every record store in the country, and every week, and they would say, hey, what's selling? And that was a little subjective what was selling. Sure, we sold this, but maybe the store owner likes this record.
Yeah.
So he would say, we sold 50 of whoever,
We'll take your word for it, guy who just got a new refrigerator for his house from the label. We'll take it from you.
Record labels would send record stores refrigerators and microwave ovens and probably cash sometimes, and it was really murky. Well, what happens in 1991 is SoundScan, and it's essentially, I guess, the way I understand it, the barcode scenario. So you couldn't fudge the numbers anymore, right? The numbers weren't going through the store owner. You would buy a record or I guess a cassette or a CD, and it gets scanned, and those numbers go right to Billboard. So then they knew who was really selling the records. And it wasn't the pop artist that came to define the pop charts. It was country artists, people like Garth Brooks and Shania Twain. It was, between 1956 and 1991, there were 6 albums to debut at number 1 on the Billboard charts. It was Elton John has 2 of them, Stevie Wonder Songs in the Key of Life, Springsteen's box set 75 to 85, Whitney Houston's second album, and who's the other one?
I don't know. But
Michael Jackson's Bad.
That's right.
The album that debuts at number 1 after SoundScan is implemented is Skid Row's second album.
So just take that list of albums and put them together and be like, those were all number 1 sellers. But it's because now there was a new way to measure things, and this changes the music significantly.
Because record labels start to see that metal, hard rock, these certain country artists, rap, these are who's selling the records. That meant that they got the TV bookings, they got the press interviews, the light shined on them, and then there are other artists, people we would think of as country artists, some that did not get the attention that they had long gotten and had deserved to get. Music just became, in a way, SoundScan was good because it made everything legit. In another sense, it was unfair. So 1995, it's 1991. 1995, the first issue of No Depression magazine. Very important. 1999, the establishment of the Americana Music Association. I put this in after my conversation with Jed because I think it's relevant. 2007, Jed Hilly becomes the executive director of Americana Music Association. And that is because he helped to get, in 2009, the Recording Academy to establish an Americana category. And then in 2011, and this is a great moment for Jed, he got Merriam-Webster, and it took him years, but he finally got Merriam-Webster to put Americana music in the dictionary. So those are our big moments in Americana.
And for those of you guys under 40 years old, a dictionary is like a big book where they'd put words in there, and it meant a lot if you got in there. So that's where we're at now. Let's bring out people who, Bob showed up in this story relatively recently, the chronology of this music. Let's bring out the legends who I think have defined this field. Are you ready to meet our guest tonight? Bob, would you do the honor?
Emmylou and Rodney Crowell.
I think you might have been who they're waiting for. I think so. We kind of were too. We'll let Bob get this kicked off here.
Yeah, so, Ben and I have been talking about, and this is subjective, right? Genres, Americana music, it's very subjective. But we've been trying to lay out, some kind of a timeline and Americana as we know it. This show is the road to now. Okay. So can we start with, Emmylou, I was reading that you started out, you went to New York to sing folk music.
To be Joan Baez. And of course, there's only one Joan Baez. But yeah, I went, I got turned into folk music when I was about 16. And I don't know, I just thought, well, it's just waiting for me. It didn't happen.
But then there's a turn because you become exposed to a lot of country music.
Yeah, through Graham Parsons, right.
Right.
Whoa is right. Thank you.
So can you just for a second talk about the going from performing folk music and then learning all this, being exposed to all this country music? Were there connections there that were undeniable? Was it just...
Well, I just, I really didn't know who Graham was. I was kind of in a folk bubble. And but we had that fortuitous meeting in D.C. where I was playing in the clubs with a folk trio and ended up doing the 2 records with him and becoming a bit inoculated to country music. I love singing it. I felt like I found my voice, and that's really what I wanted to do. After Graham passed away, actually tomorrow, I guess I'm not supposed to say dates. Am I supposed to say dates? Because
No, say
tomorrow will be the 50th anniversary of his death in Joshua Tree. Hard to believe. But I was, because I had worked on his records, the stars were aligned and I was able to get a record contract wanting to be a country artist. But I have kind of a folk voice. But fortunately, I had a great producer, had wonderful musicians, and my producer brought Mr. Crowell into my life. We were looking for material to record because I didn't write material. And Brian Ahern, my producer, had just signed this sort of unknown songwriter from Texas. And I think that Rodney and I were we were on the verge of, we didn't know we were Americana. I mean, we were just doing the music that really inspired us. And of course, with Rodney, I had these wonderful songs. I heard them first, and I got to record them first.
Rodney, your origin story. Hank Williams Sr.'s 100th birthday was yesterday. And you went to a Hank Williams concert when you were 2 years old. Is that true?
It's very true. My father, I was 2 years, 4 months old. It was December 14th, 1952, and he died January 1st, 1953. I remember the smell of my dad's hair oil because I was on his shoulders. He had me up on his shoulders. And I remember an eddy of cool air that brushed my cheek. And I remember a light. I actually have those memories. But all of the other memories I have from that night was from my father, who was a country singer, a good one, much better than me. But he was also a sharecrop farm kid from Western Kentucky who was disentitled, and it just never, he had the goods, but it never occurred to him that he could quit shoveling mud and go to Nashville and try to give it a go. But he never let me forget. His mantra was, just remember, son, I took you to see the Hillbilly Shakespeare. And it stuck with me. And so his memory became my memory. And in my memoir, Chinaberry Sidewalks, I reconstructed my memory through his memory. And so it indeed happened. And I saw Hank Williams and the Beatles.
What?
Where did you see the Beatles?
In Houston.
Is that 64?
65.
65. So,
So you were 15 then? Is that right?
14.
Okay. That's amazing.
and you played with your father in a band.
I did.
J.W. Crowell and the Rhythmaires.
True.
And you played drums.
I played drums.
But then you had a band and you played Beatles and Beach Boys music.
Well, yeah, but you got to understand, my dad had a blind drummer whose name was Bat.
You can't make this stuff up.
That's Americana. They got a little bit successful, got some better paying gigs and farther afield, and it was uncomfortable for Bat. He couldn't get to the gigs. So Bat quit the band. So my dad came home on a Tuesday with a bass drum and a snare drum and a cymbal, one of those, just the cymbal sets on the bass drum, and took a kitchen chair and some phone books and showed me how to play a shuffle. And That was Tuesday. On Friday night, I was playing in a honky-tonk.
Wait,
He's got the real cred.
Don't applaud, because
how old were you? How old were you?
I was 11.
He just comes to me and goes, look, boy, we knew where bat was going at some point, so here you go. You're the drummer now.
Should not applaud, because trust me, the other band members, they wore this pasted on smile the whole night, like, isn't he cute? Like, I could not play. It was a train wreck all night long, and my dad just plowed ahead because he didn't have to pay a drummer. That extra $5 was worth it to him.
That's sharecropping life, right? The kids work for free?
Yep, that's $5.
And the correct me if I'm wrong on this, your business card for your band when you were a teenager said country if you want it.
True. Yes, yes. And very few teenage kids wanted it. But I did meet a girl in Humble, Texas when I was 15, and she heard the Arbitrators play. I don't mean to hog the story, Emmy.
I want to hear it.
Her name was Roxy, and I just played in Humble the other night, about a weekend before last, and I tried to find her house, but I really did. It's gone. But we played, and she pulled me aside. This 15-year-old girl, she was really beautiful too. She was she had a beautiful girl, and I thought, oh boy, she likes me, and she says, listen, you need to come by my house because your band is going nowhere until you learn some country music. So I still thought it was an opportunity to go make out with this girl. But I borrowed an old cowboy's truck, and I went back the next night to her house, and she sat me down. She played George Jones songs for 2.5 hours. She just one right after another, and she would repeat, go from Why Baby Why to The Window Up Above. And she said, you learn some George Jones songs, you're gonna make it. And I said, okay, I'll learn them. That's true.
But did you make it?
I didn't make that up.
So you two meet.
Yeah.
And he becomes a member of your hot band.
Right. Yeah.
And I went back and looked at Elite Hotel this week, and that band on that particular record, I mean, Mickey Raphael plays harmonica, James Burton, I think, is on that.
Glendy Hard and Emery Gordy. Yeah, well, that was basically what became my traveling band. We had John Ware on drums and Hank DeVito on steel and Rodney. And there was like the old guard. They weren't that old, but, Glendy and Emery and James they played with Elvis. They were like the creme de la creme. And then we had the young upstarts, me and Rodney. John Ware's kind of in the middle there, and Hank. But we had an incredible camaraderie. I mean, the joy of playing was wonderful, but also just the time, we really kind of became a family. And I still feel that way about all those guys and all the ones who've been in my band. But, I felt I was learning to be a country singer with Graham. And then I had to kind of find my way without him. And I just hooked up with wonderful people. And Rodney was so important because we would just sing together all the time. I mean, we were hanging out at the studio, which was a big house off Coldwater Canyon. And we would just sit around and sing. Plus, he had all these great songs. But we would also sing George Jones. We would sing anything we could harmonize on. So it was just a country festival all the time. So, yeah, that was it. I had not just my band, but I had my recording and my traveling band family, and we were kind of all on a mission. I don't know if we really knew what it was. I felt I wanted to try to keep Graham's vision, which I kind of knew what it was, but I wasn't sure. So I was kind of feeling my way in the dark, but I had company. I had wonderful company.
That's amazing. Whatever that. It's just amazing to hear stories about people who how this concludes, and you go, at one point in time, they were kind of trying to feel it out too, It's amazing. Now, since we're talking about Americana tonight, I was wondering if this is a question for both of you guys. You can take it in whatever order you want to. When was the first time you remember somebody referring to you as an Americana artist or your music being Americana?
Gosh, I don't know. What do you think, Rodney?
Well, I always thought Americana was TV dinner trays and drive-in movie theaters, 56 Ford. To me, that was Americana. But I understood when it was first presented to me, and I was kind of one of the first artists to jump from country, quote, unquote. I endorsed Americana really early, like 2000, something like that. I don't remember when it was. But I understood it. Americana, people some say, what is Americana? Well, it is, the real Americana music would be jazz. It would be the music that started in New Orleans. But the Americana as we know it today was really an alternative to right down the middle hit radio country. It was like, let's create a genre here for the people who aren't getting played on the radio but are making good music. The poets, quote unquote. And I understood that that's what they were creating a safe haven for. So I said, I'm in. May not qualify, but I'm in. And it grew from there.
Well, I don't know about hearing myself call that. I was enjoying some visibility on the radio, and then I stopped. And I didn't really know why. I think there was a certain ageism that happened. But this fellow, Rob Bleetstein, is the one I think who really started Americana. And I believe that he wanted to call it crucial country. And then they said, well, that's kind of slamming the country that's not crucial. So I think I heard him talk about this being Americana. So I just figured, I'm going to make the music that I want to make. And if it's not on the radio, then it's not on the radio. But I still had people coming to my shows, and I still had the ability to make whatever records I wanted to make. But it is true that there was a certain point where I felt like I wasn't being invited to the party of country radio anymore. And that's basically when I made Wrecking Ball.
Amazing album.
Yeah.
Daniel Lanois produced, incredible album. Hearing both of you speak about this time when things kind of changed, it reminds me of like, this is the late 80s, early 90s. And I was talking a minute ago about SoundScan, the way that record sales were tabulated when that changed, in that period of the early 90s when Garth Brooks and Shania Twain, and it became this, and it also heavy metal and rap and just genre, what was on the charts and what got all the attention, it was no longer, country music or even certain pop music. And so, Rodney, in '88, you had an album, correct me if I'm wrong, Diamonds and Dirt. You had 5 number 1 singles off of that?
5 number 1 singles. Yeah, give it up for that.
And Emmylou, you have this, you talk about this period where you were no longer being played on country radio.
Yeah,
like
I was too old. I was 40.
I mean,
I couldn't pitch anymore.
We don't believe this. I mean, you were in The Last Waltz and you're on the Oh Brother Where Art Thou album. I mean, you are the queen of Americana, if I could, say that.
There wasn't Americana yet, though.
What's that?
There wasn't really Americana yet, though.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, the Down from the Mountain. That was an anomaly, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, bluegrass, people just didn't think that bluegrass sold, even though there's huge, worldwide, I realize there's huge bluegrass fans. And if I might tell this little story, when it was nominated for a Grammy, and we were all there, everybody in the cast, and we were taking up a big chunk of the audience there. And when they announced it was Record of the Year, Album of the Year, nobody stood up. Everybody was sort of, we felt kind of like outliers anyway. And finally T-Bone said, get up, get up. You got to go on the stage, and this mass of hillbillies, all of us, all of us had a little bit of hillbilly in us, completely take over the stage. And so it shows you that, I don't know if it was promoted or whatever, it seemed like it was just people really loved that record.
Yeah, I think you guys, that was my entryway to learn about this music.
So Americana or whatever, it's interesting when something surprises the business, I guess is what I'm saying.
There is that moment in Other Brother, Where Art Thou? Dan Tominski's doing the great old song, I Am a...
Wait for a
Not Wait for a Stranger, but...
Yeah, I know.
I turned to my wife, I said, that performance right there is going to sell 5 million albums right there. Because, it was... What's this? I can't think of the song. Somebody knows the song.
Man of Constant Sorrow?
Man of Constant
Thank you.
Just premier performance. It's like, to me, that performance ranks with Ray Charles, and it was killer.
Yeah.
When good music is put in front of an audience like that, it doesn't matter if it's country or jazz or classical, whatever. If it's really good, and it's like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk on that particular show catapulted him. Well, that song and that performance in that movie sold a boatload of records. Yeah.
It also made Bob $300 one night. You missed that story, but...
Well, that was Rocky Top.
Sorry.
T-Bone Burnett needs some credit for this, because T-Bone put together that record, didn't he?
Put that record together, yeah. T-Bone, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Hi, T-Bone.
Now, we're at this moment, we're talking about this moment between the 80s and the early 90s, where you see, country music radio and kind of that angle go. And, you've said you feel like you were a bit left behind with that. And, and this form of music was kind of put aside. But to me, if I could just real quick, set this up with a story. My wife and I went, when we first moved here, for a tour of the Ryman. Yeah. And I don't know if you've been there, but their tours are awesome. Just walking you through the whole steps. And the way the arc of the story they told it, the way it went, was, you have the early days of the Ryman. And who knows what it's going to be. And it's Lula Nath who really establishes this place as the heart of music in the city.
It was called the Carnegie Hall of the South.
The Carnegie Hall of the South. It's amazing. And so she ran it, right?
Yeah.
At a time when women didn't have that, a lot of times have that position. And then the story comes to an arc, and if you guys don't know this, I feel like people who are new to Nashville don't understand. They were talking about tearing down the Ryman at one point not too long ago. Getting rid of that eyesore, probably putting up 2 tall, skinny houses on the spot. You guys know what I'm talking about?
It was going to be what they call the Bat Building, the AT&T building. Yeah, the Bat Building. That was going to be there in that spot.
Well, okay, it's fine where it is. But
named after Rodney's dad's drummer.
The difference is that one's listening. That one's out there.
All right. Okay.
So to me, thinking about this, there's a beautiful turn in the story. So why doesn't it get torn down? And the way they tell the story there, I've looked into this. A big reason is because Emmylou goes there and records an album in 1991.
I'm just a working girl, and I was looking for a place to make a live record, and there weren't a whole lot of places in Nashville, back then, and it was actually a fantastic woman in the music business, Bonnie Garner. She's done so many things. You could do a whole program on her, but she was actually working for my manager at the time, and she said, look, why don't we see if we can do it at the Ryman? It was just an empty building at that point where they were doing tours where music used to have been played. So really, Bonnie got that going. So I'd love to take credit like I was on some kind of mission, but really I just wanted to make a record. And I had a great band of acoustic musicians. So it was kind of the perfect place to record because it is an astonishingly wonderful acoustic place. I don't know if it's because of the curved walls or the wood, or imagine what it would sound like if you were inside an acoustic guitar. So all those things just, you just have to, you got your job and you want to make a record and all those other wonderful things happen. Well, but you have to give Gaylord credit for thinking, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't tear this down and maybe we should put some money into it. And of course, they've done a wonderful renovation of it, even to the point where they had only had pictures of certain things, like they redid the lights, had them made new just from pictures, and they really did try to keep the what they call the bowl, the performance bowl in there, the sanctity of that. So everybody came together as a team, but I'll take credit for it.
Yes.
Why not?
I would give her credit for it. And this to me was, my wife and I, Kelly, we went there and we walked away from it. And what I loved about it is the origins of the Ryman and really the restoration of the Ryman. It's in country music, which has not historically been particularly kind to women. Nevertheless, the story of the success of the Ryman is a story of women in music, because it begins with the woman who establishes it, and it is resurrected because of your music there. And so I just think that's a brilliant thing to have in town. And I'll bet a lot of people who go there don't expect that, but that's the thing about history. Sometimes it pisses you off.
When I was preparing for tonight, I spoke with Jed Hilley. We had a really wonderful conversation. And he told me something, he shared great stories about both of you. And Rodney, he said he was offered the job of executive director of the Americana Music Association 3 times, and he turned it down until he had coffee with you, Rodney. Do you remember that meeting? And what did you say to him?
I'm still thinking about Roxy a week ago. I kind of remember. What did I tell Jed? I don't remember what I told him.
Well, you were the closer. You sealed the deal, and I was just, wondering what you said. He said part of it was that you were a hero of his. He just loved your music so much, and he's a big fan of yours.
Well, let's say that it was sort of like Emmy saving the Opry.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just tootling along.
No, I honestly don't remember the conversation, but I'm sure it would be something like, hey, man, this is something that needs to be curated and taken care of. And you got the energy and the people's skills. Do it. It needs to be done. And, he grabbed on and he hung on and he did the job. So you get the Opry, I get Jed Hilley.
Okay.
Although, Rodney, yours did sound a little bit more like maybe you threatened him and you don't want to admit to it on recording.
You know what? Something that I'm like just kind of, the vibe I'm getting here is you talk about the hot band and the community of people that you had around you. And you're talking about like the idea of curating this music. One of the questions Ben and I had, is Americana a genre or is it a refuge? Jed said to me, he's like, it's a community and it's a genre because economically you need a genre. But at the heart of it, it's preserving the Ryman. It's preserving Johnny Cash's birthplace. It's just as Americana, you say like it's a 57 Chevy and an apple pie, mom's apple pie. But there is something, about this music and the artistry. Like it has a reputation of like, we're the real country music here. We're the people, and I'm not saying that this is what people think. Again, this is all subjective. But Americana does kind of have this air of like, it's the real country music. It's the artists. These people are more concerned about the art than the commercialization and preserving it to hand it off to the next generation.
I'm not sure. I liked your, when you said, did you say refuge? In a way, I mean, I think it's inclusive. It's like, well, I know it when I hear it or something like that. I just think that there was a lot of being shut out, just like, when I wasn't played on country radio anymore. Now, maybe I wasn't making records that appeal to, so we can't. It's easy to slam the record companies and slam the record business, but every career is going to have peaks and valleys. I think we have to accept that. It's up to the artist to be excited about what they do. Now, sometimes the audience and the record company is not excited about what you do, but I think you still plow ahead with it and hopefully find some way to make a living. So I'm not really answering your question, but it's hard to say, well, what exactly is Americana? Is it just all the people that are left out of the other more established genres? If people are listening to it and people like it, like Dan Tominski's, performance. I mean, that's just greatness right there. But fortunately, now there is more ways to hear it, and people can decide whether they like it or not. I mean, that's really all an artist is asking for, the chance to be heard. Do you like what I do? Listen to what I want you to listen and be touched by what I do. I mean, that's basically what we're all trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I keep almost interrupting Emmy while she's making a good point, but for me, the illustration of it for me, the mindset that I think we're talking about, it goes way back 1972 when I first met Guy Clark, who, from where I sit, is one of the true architects of Americana music.
Amen to that.
And, I was young and trying to figure out, and he would let me hang around, and he said, hey, you got talent. He said, you can be a big star, I bet you. And he said, but if you're an artist, you'll have a long career. And of course, I go, I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist, because I wanted to please Guy. But the mindset, it stuck with me, which is the art comes really before the commerce. Now, that's not to say that if a boatload of money came with it, we would cash the check. But it's not the motivating factor. It's really not. It never has been. And I'm not saying that the other artists who are really mainstream country, it's like they're expressing themselves the way they do, but the business itself runs on making money, like businesses do. But it somehow seems like Americana, there's a little elbow room in there for, well, you want to see yourself as an artist and go make a record that nobody wants to hear? Well, go ahead.
Right.
We'll support you.
I think that we had planned to wrap up this conversation by asking you guys what Americana means to you, but I feel like we've gotten the answer here. So I think that considering that pretty much anybody making music anywhere associated with Americana, they look up to you guys. You are important, right? Round of applause for these guys. I mean, they're important in this. And can I just say, this is kind of a dream job because I had to work to prep for this, but a lot of this was listening to y'all's music. And when that's
so
work,
great.
You'll take it every single time. So I wonder, maybe we should just leave off asking you guys, people who are up and coming in the music industry, what advice would you have for them? And what do you think is worth sharing?
Well, I kind of said it earlier. I said, you've got to be just really into what you want to do. You have to be inspired by yourself, by what you want to do. It has to be almost a fire in you. I mean, as Rodney said, you need to be an artist. Otherwise, you got no business being in it, really. If you want to really get what being an artist is, the money is good. You need to make a living. But the satisfaction of creating something or making music that really means something to you, and then finding that it means something to people out there, people that music, other people's music feeds me and inspires me. So if I find out that I've been able to give that gift to someone else, that's kind of priceless.
I think most of us that are still doing it, we're blessed with no plan B.
Amen. There you go. I wasn't even a very good waitress.
Ladies and gentlemen, Emmylou and Rodney Crowell. Thank you so much to our guests tonight. You know him, Emmylou and Rodney, Bob Crawford, to Annie DeRusso, and also Sawyer opened up the show. And thanks to you guys for being here. This was amazing. Have a great night, Nashville.
Good night, everybody. Have a good week. Be safe.
Thank you for listening to The Road to Now. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell the world by giving us 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts or 5 stars on Spotify. Or spread the word directly. Just text a friend maybe, or share a link on social media. Anything helps and we appreciate it. And if you've got a friend who hasn't gotten into podcasts yet, let them know they can hear us every weekend on SiriusXM's POTUS Channel 124. Now is the time when we say our special thanks to our supporters on Patreon and give a shout out to our Washingtonians. That list is Tanya Marsh, Mary Hawking, Tim and Caitlin Wells, Fig White, Matt Williams, Team Martin, Ann Williams and Frank Edwards, Nate Farrer, Jennifer and Magnolia, Chris and Teresa Adams, Joy Avery, Edward Carlson, and Aaron and Derek Garrison. Thanks to all you guys for supporting us. If you want to support our work and maybe get on that list, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/theroadtonow. You'll get extended versions of select conversations, extra episodes, bonus materials, and more. That's all available at patreon.com/theroadtonow. For more on the show, visit our website, theroadtonow.com, where you can easily search our back catalog and quickly find links to content. Why is it so good? 7 Ages Design. That's who made it. If you're looking for a website, go check them out. The Road to Now is hosted and produced by Bob Crawford and me, Ben Sawyer. Our associate producer is Gary Fletcher. This episode was edited by Ben Sawyer, and our theme music, like pretty much always, was by Paul DeFiglia. For Bob Crawford, this is Ben Sawyer. Thank you for listening. Take care.